sand had
Using the mayor left his hammer out here. All right, it's 6 o'clock, so we will call this meeting of the Town of Copper Canyon Planning and Zoning Commission to order. We do have a quorum, as you can see here. So we're calling this to order at 6 p.m. The first order of business is public input. Citizens can make comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We ask citizens who wish to speak on agenda items to sign in on the sheet provided on the table at the back of the council chambers. There's a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Pursuant to state open meeting laws, the Planning and Zoning Commission cannot discuss or take action on items not posted on the agenda. So this is a public input period for things that are for the future that are not on the agenda. We will have a public hearing later on for things that are on the agenda. So is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any subject, whatever? So long as it isn't President Trump at the Super Bowl, we're okay. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is our development update. Troy, if you could give us an update on what's going on into town.
Yes, I sure can. Thank you. Copper Knolls, they're still working on the streets. I think with the wet weather we've had, it kind of delayed them a little bit. So they got about the rest of that circle to complete. And so they're working on that. Jernigan Estates, Chris and I had an opportunity to walk with the developer this past week. He's got about 10 to 12 things on a punch list to finish up on that before we'll do any type of final acceptance on that. But those are our two most active developments that we have at this point.
Not a development per se, but what's going on with Spectrum? I don't know if you saw, but the Copper in Lantana, they're suing the heck out of Spectrum for breaking water pipes and doing plumbing without a license and all kinds of stuff. How are they doing here in our? So
Spectrum Charter, they're about 90% done, maybe 95% done with all the underground in Copper Canyon. So they're just about wrapping that up. They still got the aerials to do to attach to existing utility poles, and they're working through permits with CoServe on that. So they haven't gotten all those permits yet. So they're just kind of putting them behind a little bit. But as far as underground work, they have about 92% done with all that infrastructure.
And then on Orchid Hill, they put in a bunch of much taller poles. Is that to serve the power to the new development there, or is that something else?
They put those new poles up. It was a new. Do what?
I think that was a sailboat.
Yes, there was.
A sailboat?
There was a lawsuit, I believe, with CoServe that if there was a creek or anything that their poles or lines went over, they had to extend their poles X number of feet. So that's part of that. So it was kind of a strange thing, but that's.
Yeah, they took down the old poles and put a much taller one.
Yes. So that's what they're concerned about as it relates to that, my understanding.
$24.99 for across?
No, it's the far end of Orchid Hill as you get down toward $24.99 from the turning circle over to $24.99.
Because they put some new ones up over $24.99 also that are look like into the new development.
It's probably related to that. I know on Chin Chapel over the creek, they raised those up as well. Yeah. So.
Never a dull moment.
Yes.
And then you might also mention, just for the benefit of the citizens, the restriping on Copper Canyon Road.
Yes. So starting on the week of February 17th, we're looking to restripe Copper Canyon Road from 407 all the way to the town limits, with the caveat that the temperatures don't drop too low. So we have a small window to make that work. And then if weather cooperates, but that project has been approved, and it's looking to start on the 17th. So we'll put up message boards, and we sent out emails today as well to go along with that, and there'll be information on our website too. But thank you for bringing that up.
If the creek don't rise.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent item. Did all of you receive the revised minutes email today?
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on the revised minutes? Such as they then. All right, then I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes as revised.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it approves. We will now move on to our first discussion item. So to remind you all how we tried to do these things, we'll have some discussion here amongst us, so that you can kind of hear how we're thinking and issues that we've come up with and whatnot, if any. Then we will go to the public hearing where we'll hear from you. And then after that, after we've heard from the public, we'll go back to actually considering it, whether it's something we want to approve or not, and the issues it may have. So that way we kind of get some things out in front of you before you have to come up and tell us about it. So the discussion item is the Ani Ranch addition preliminary plat, which allows for the development of approximately 55.7 acres to allow for the development of 22 single-family lots, 2 acres each, and 1 gas well on a well site lot, 5.262 acres, located at 1313 Copper Canyon Road, Argyle, Texas, 76226. So we have been provided detailed preliminary plat information. We have it available for those people who want to see it in big or small, however you want to best review it. And in our packet tonight, we have the engineer's letter. Chris, you want to walk us through your letter and any thoughts you may have or issues that you're concerned about?
Sure. As you know, we recently changed the process through the preliminary plat, concept plan, development plan. And so they've provided us really more than enough information at a preliminary plat level. They provided us grading and the early drainage. So overall, thought the site looked good and it really followed what the DRC wanted. And so I have no comments.
We have the checklist. You all have seen the checklist. Everything looks checked yes, no objections. The only question I had, Chris, is the letters from CoServe and Cross Timbers were actually old. They were done for Sweet Cow a year or two ago. Do those need to be updated at this time, or is that's good enough? I mean, if it was good enough then, is it good enough now?
So that's a good question, and I don't have the answer. If there's a statute on those, I would assume that since this actually has fewer homes than that previous Sweet Cow did,
Yeah.
that they both still be good to go. I don't know if you guys have had additional follow-up or not.
Yeah, Dave Siciliano, you're here somewhere. There he is.
Those were recently confirmed. I sent you the sheet.
Okay.
Those are updated.
All right, good. I mean, I just saw the dates on the letters, or the original. They actually were addressed to Sweet Cow, who's a prior applicant here that didn't go through. Okay. I didn't really have any questions for David, but if you want to, we can get David up here and talk to him about it. Any questions?
I had 3, and Chris actually addressed one of them, but I pulled out the old Sweet Cow stuff.
Yeah.
And they showed a pond, which I don't see
In the center?
in this plat.
Yep, so
Is that,
right here and then right here will be their 2 main drainage spots.
is there a pond there though?
There's a pond in the middle. Yeah.
Okay,
It
all
kind
right.
of crosses over 4 lots.
Okay, it wasn't specified, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question is concerning with the well.
Mhm.
Are there any like state or federal regulations or guidelines or just general guidance on how far a house has to be away from this?
They've got to create a letter. Houses that, David, I believe it's 1,000 feet from each home, stating that that gas well is existing, and they're going to screen it as well with the wooden fence. So they're
Okay.
notifying and meeting all those notification requirements.
So it's 1,000 feet.
Right, of just notification, yes.
Okay.
And the other problem we've had in the past is noise, the sound of some of these things,
Right.
so many decibels and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. Have you?
There's no compressor on here now. Now, they could put a compressor on in the future, but we'll screen it. We'll use a landscape and a 8-foot board on board fence combination. We're not sure if we'll have excess dirt to do the berm. If not, it'll be an 8-foot board on board fence, which we put in the packet. We can't stop them from putting a compressor in the future, but there's not one there now. So it's not noisy at all right now.
Yeah.
There is across the street, as you know, on the other side of Copper Canyon.
And then that's really the purpose of the letter. So
Yeah.
if you're buying in that development, you understand that you're next to a gas well, and there could be noise and traffic and all those things associated with that type of facility.
Nothing on setbacks for the house, for any homes? It just
No,
has,
nothing
it's just a
unusual.
notice thing?
Yeah.
But it's got to be a 5-acre pad, I think, right? Is that
The
what-
pad is over 5 acres and the well is in the center, near the center of the pad. And the lots are 2 acres each. So there's quite a bit of distance between where anything would happen and the homes. There are 2 homes that would be on each side of it that might be the most affected, but we have to disclose that and explain it.
All right. Other questions for the developer?
Dave, can you, just knowing that you were involved with the Sweet Cow, can you just give us the sort of high level, what's different? Fewer lots in
I
this?
don't
No,
think
he wasn't.
Oh,
He
you
wasn't.
weren't, I'm sorry.
He
you
wasn't,
weren't.
no.
But do you know from what we looked at before with Sweet Cow, this is fewer houses or any other material changes from that plan?
From the original concept plan,
Right,
our concept plan or the Sweet Cow?
the Sweet Cow,
Sweet Cow proposed more than a 2 acre development.
right.
When we went to 2 acres, it brought us down to 22 lots.
Right.
They were up in the mid-30s.
Right.
They had a mix of 2 acres and 1 acres. We're staying strictly with the zoning.
Okay. All right. Any other significant changes, differences?
Well, at DRC, we brought some things out. We really are trying to extend Quiet Hill. If you go drive Quiet Hill, we're trying to take the Quiet Hill concept and bring it next door. The entrance, the elevation that I circulated is kind of an upgraded, more modern entrance from Quiet Hill, but that's what it's patterned off of. On the south entrance, we'll be able to put an entry feature on each side like Quiet Hill. On the north entrance, we're encumbered by the overhead power lines, and we're trying to work with TP&L to see what they'll let us do, and it may be restricted. So, but we're trying to do that same kind of thing. This is private streets with bar ditches, no sewer, septic tanks by the builder. The pads, the engineer asked us to demonstrate that pads could fit on the lots to show they fit, but that's not representative of where they may go. It's more the home builder will go with the owner and put it on the lot where it fits, but the engineer wanted assurance you could fit a 100 by 100 foot pad on the lot, so that's why we did that. Mark brought up the fence to the north before. We met with the Quiet Hill homeowners. Well, we talked to Katie on email and all, and they went to the HOA. We both want to keep the fence that's there. We're going to incorporate Quiet Hill's CCRs on fences into our CCRs, because on most of these lots, what people do is they put a little fence out in back of their house. They don't go fence the whole backyard, which is over 300 feet long. So we're in agreement with Quiet Hill, I believe, and Katie's, are you agreed? Or I thought we have, anyway, she agreed in an email, and we've agreed to incorporate those standards. We are dedicating right away per the engineer's request. And for the homeowners, we're not changing zoning here. We're just technically complying with P&Z requirements. And we feel we're in full compliance with all your requirements. We're trying to be good neighbors, but we think we've met all the technical requirements.
I think in partial answer to your question, one of the things that we dealt with before was the outlet from Quiet Hill Estates,
Right.
as a separate exit. And I think that's all been resolved at this point, that the people who live on that little stub road are okay with it being a stub road and don't
not
want
opening
traffic
up.
on it. And so that this, as you can see from this diagram here, it stubs out. That's it. There's a fence. There is no exit there. It's just a little stub road. Is that correct from you Quiet Hill folks? Okay. Because that was a point of difference.
Yeah, we agreed
last
with
time.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
This is this is not a gated community, correct?
No, sir.
Okay.
Quiet
'Cause
Hill isn't gated either.
that was one of the concerns
Yeah.
from Sweet Cow.
Yeah.
Was those cars flying over, and if it was gated, somebody could be
Right, getting in and out.
in and out and whack.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well, we'll have a public hearing in a while. We can hear from Quiet Hill and anybody else that wants to speak. Thank you, David. Any other discussion before we go into the public hearing? Okay, so just please be advised that the plat for this agenda item has been determined by the town's staff and engineer to meet the town's requirements. And as you've heard, the P&Z Commission has made its efforts to confirm that with the staff and engineer that they did examine the plat for determination that meets the town requirements. for the plat. You've heard Chris say that it does. And we as commissioners need to be personally satisfied that it meets the town's requirements. And I think we've each gone through the checklists, reviewed the plats, and it does meet it as far as I believe we do. So please be advised that the Texas State Law 2.12.005 provides that the plat must be approved, underlined, if it meets the town's requirements. Therefore, the purpose of the public hearing is for the town citizens, A, to be informed regarding the development activities of the town, B, to express any personal comments regarding the agenda item, and C, to prevent any facts or documents that may be contradictory or supplemental to the information provided on the plat as submitted by the owner developer. The committee is not required to respond to public comments. However, the commission may choose to respond directly to any public comment or to ask the developer to respond to any public comment either contemporaneously or subsequent to the closing of the public hearing. The commission will listen attentively to all public comments, but in the absence of any new facts that might be presented, the commission will have no option other than to approve the plat as submitted. Although in rare situations, the commission may choose to approve the plat subject to certain conditions that would require the owner developer to provide a written response. Such response will be reviewed by the commission at a subsequent meeting to be held within 15 days upon receipt of the written response from the property owner or developer, just to set the stage. It is now 6:17. We will open the public hearing. I do have one letter here from, is it Dean Hartley?
Yes.
Yes. If you take the microphone and state your name and address and make your comments. Be sure and speak into the microphone.
I'm Dean Hartley. I'm representing 1320, 1340, 1360 Copper Canyon Road. That's all family owned. We're directly across the street from the development. And I think our only concern is still the extra drainage we're going to get on our side of the road from this property and how it's going to be controlled. I do have a video on my phone, but nothing I can show here showing the last time we had a heavy rain and the amount of water that's coming on the side of the road from under the road. So still, my concern is the drainage and how that's going to be controlled.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley? Anyone else?
Brian Toms, I represent Quiet Hill Estates. I'm at 135 Quiet Hill, which is a property immediately adjacent to the new land. Just a couple of requests, really. I think generally Quiet Hill's pretty happy with what's being proposed here, this development. A couple of requests probably. One is the setbacks. I don't know what the setbacks are set to be in this new development. But from a privacy perspective, I think the homeowners in Quiet Hill would prefer the setbacks be less than more. In other words, like a 50-foot setback be allowed rather than like a 100-foot setback be mandated. Only because these properties do back up to each other, we prefer the home being closer or further south so that we're not, sharing, so that we're not on top of each other, I guess is the name.
More space in what would be the
More
backyard.
space on the backyards. Okay. So that's one request. Another request, I think, is that I believe the most recent proposal that I saw, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right one or not, but the recent proposal that I saw had a pond, I think, on the north side of the property.
Northwest corner.
Northwest corner. If possible, if that pond could have some kind of like bubbler feature or other, so there's not just stale water attracting bugs and mosquitoes and things like that, that would also be a preference from Quiet Hill. Another preference from Quiet Hill, I think, is the existing fence line between the properties. So again, I'm talking about this fence on the north side that kind of goes along this long stretch here. The existing fence there is a barbed wire fence. I think the homeowners are comfortable if that stays as is. If that fence does get changed, our preference is not to be a wooden privacy fence. Our preference is to keep it somewhat,
Like a pipe fence.
more like a pipe fence, or I think what they're kind of proposing for the front entrance type of fencing. But if they do put in a new fence, I think the request there is that we try to keep the trees, because there's a lot of trees along that fence line that that are like literally on top of the fence. And so if they had to remove those trees to put in a new fence, that would be a concern for White Hill. And then I think the other piece is just timing. We weren't clear on what the timing of this proposal was. So any just education on that, I think, would also be welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right. Hearing no one else, it's now 6:20. I will close the public hearing, and we will move to our next agenda item, which is the actual discussion and consideration of the proposal. It's discuss, consider, and make a recommendation to the town council regarding Awney Ranch Addition preliminary plat, allowing for the development of approximately 55.7 acres and to allow for the development of 22 single-family lots, 2 acres each, and with 1 gas well site of 5.262 acres located at 1313 Copper Canyon Road, Argyle, Texas, 76226. So I think as the first item of discussion here, maybe we could respond to some of these public comments. Chris, you want to talk about the drainage and how that works? I mean, it's in they've done some very extensive drainage work here. So if you could talk a little bit about the ponds and the drainage, and maybe we can have McAdams respond as well.
Yep. You guys want to lead off on the drainage?
Our engineer is here to give you the technical calculations if you want them. From an overall perspective, no drainage is going to go across Copper Canyon Road that isn't there now. I mean, everything is, the reason we're having these detention ponds in is the pond in Quiet Hill, if it overflows, will come down to our central pond. And all our water from that central area goes into that central pond. In the northwest corner, we're picking up a lot of water from Quiet Hill and bringing it back into Lantana to the west. That's the big picture, but there will be no increase in water, and there's actually be, would you say there's a little bit of a decrease? We're just keeping everything on our site.
Yeah, there's a slight decrease.
Our engineer.
Most of the site drains from Quiet Hill to the north to the south. It's kind of bisected in the northwest part of the property, drains to the northwest, as mentioned. We have a mandated amount that we can release because the culvert that goes underneath, that goes through the Lantana addition, which we are in talks with them because we're going to have to coordinate that. We have like 82 CFS, so that's what we're designing that pond. We can't increase the flow going to that. In regards to the northwest pond, we cannot increase the flow going there either. It will be a retention pond as of right now, which I know one of the comments, not having stale water, the town requires that there actually be a fountain or a retention pond. So it won't be stale. It will have a fountain.
And it's
Actually,
on,
both of them will at this
it's on 2 people's lots, by the way. They're not going to want a mosquito pond in their
Right,
backyard
right.
either. So-
Yeah, it's not going to just be a pond. It's going to be something a little nicer. We'll have fountains. And both of them will.
You have a requirement for us to sign a pond maintenance agreement with the town, and we're working through that with Troy. We understand it. Yeah, it won't be just a dead water pond.
The same with the one in the middle?
And just as a reminder, I know this doesn't always seem fair to people, but the developer's only required to make things not worse when they develop a property. They're not required to make it better than it was. So in terms of Mr. Hartley's comments, if the water floods across that road, and it's always flooded across that road, this developer is not required to fix that. They may, if they want to be good neighbors, and what they do may help a lot, but they're not necessarily required to make things better than what they find.
You might also mention that Copper Canyon is going to be expanded to 4 lanes in the future. We're dedicating right away for that, and that may change the grading and drainage when they redo Copper Canyon Road.
It likely will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will, because it most likely, if I'm not mistaken, it'd be a curved road if we go to 2 lanes divided. It would go to a curved road, which would mean curb and gutter, which would be storm sewer systems, and our water is not, very little of our water actually goes directly into Copper Canyon. It's going to go through our pond, and it goes through the culvert that comes out the middle of the Lantana development. And then it goes back through another pond, which is south of there, before it ever goes across.
I think it's only fair that we dump water on Lantana after all the water they dump on us. So it's only fair. All right, let's see.
It's going to dump south in that southern
Yes, sir.
part of Lantana, right?
So-
Okay. It's going to,
Right, exactly, right.
Okay.
right in here, there's a culvert, I don't know what size, 4x3 or something culvert. It goes into a system in through
Yeah, there's
the,
existing culverts.
and they have a 20-foot drainage easement all along the northern boundary.
Okay.
That's where we're in talks with Lantana, because it's gonna have to be improved a little bit. Right now, it does not quite meet the plans that it was designed to be put in at. So we've had some discussions with them in order to get that all coordinated, so it does handle the water. The ditch itself, not the storm.
Thank you. And then as far as some of the other comments, we have certain fence requirements, but most of them are not aesthetic. They're just specific. So from our perspective, it's between the developer and Quiet Hills, and we work on what that fence is. That's between you guys, not us. So we don't really have that. And of course, at the moment, we really don't have a tree ordinance either, unfortunately, although
We're working on that.
we're working on it. So we, as a town, we can't make any demands about maintaining trees. But I think you've seen this developer do other development here in town, and they were very sensitive about the trees on the other property. So we will encourage them to save all the trees they can. And by the way, it helps the value of the properties if there's a giant old oak tree in your backyard.
If I can mention one thing there, the spirit of your old tree ordinance was anything that's going to be in where the road goes, where the building pads, is exempt from that. Other than that, we're going to do all we can to maintain. There's a lot of mesquites on there, but there are some nice oaks and stuff, and we'll do all we can to maintain those. Those help our lot values, of course.
Yeah. I mean, with these 2-acre lots, these are not going to be cheap homes. So, that these aren't going to be scrape it and throw up a Vickery house. So,
There. Sorry, I'll just add to that a little bit. If you do want to look on page 3.02, you can see their development is basically cutting in the roadway and doing the pond. They're doing very little site pad grading. So there will be able to save a lot of the trees, a lot of the existing features out there.
Well, they're going to want those for those lots up north anyways for privacy on their side too.
Yep.
So, works both ways.
So then the house is on the north side. That's where Quiet Hill Circle
Yeah,
is, right?
that's all Quiet Hill up
Okay,
there.
and so, going back to the gentleman's comment regarding the setback, it appears as though, and I could be wrong, but it appears as though the house is pretty close to the back.
You have a 75-foot front yard setback in R2,
That's right.
40 in the back.
These do
40 in the
have
back.
setback
Yeah.
requirements.
but you have an incredibly large lot here. It's over 300 feet generally wide. So we don't,
So I guess I'm just asking.
I don't think it's going to be close to there. If somebody's going to put the house back further on the lot, remember, they don't have to put it at the front setback. As long as they stay 40 feet from the back, they could set the house back, but then they have to put in a longer driveway and entrance and all that. Usually we see them pretty close to that front
Right.
setback.
So they do have more space in the back for the backyard, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just
so,
because
yeah,
that's the way
I'm
people
just
build
checking.
houses.
And grass is a lot cheaper than
Yeah,
concrete.
grass is cheaper than
Yeah, sure
concrete.
enough.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Watering it though,
And we're happy, but we've been talking to Katie over there at the HOA, but we're happy to interface. If you want to give us contact information, we can go through all this.
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of Katie tonight.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah, just so you know, the Siciliano, as a developer, had to negotiate some other stuff with the Shacklefords and the people surrounding their property down at Williams Ranch. So they're good at kind of making sure that they're comfortable with their neighbors. So
We try.
at least they have been. They're a developer, so you never know,
Right.
but so far they have. All right, other further questions for the developer or the landowner or each other or Chris? Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question. So streetlights, is there a plan for streetlights?
Yes, we've coordinated that with Troy. If you're familiar with Williams Ranch, which we just finished, we were going to use that same street light, which is the fluted black light, 12 feet high, that has the Frisco top on it, that has a cap on it, so all the light just doesn't go straight up. And I've sent Troy a diagram of that, and he's agreed he'd like that.
See, I'm just trying to think of all the questions about drainage, lights. Yeah. Okay.
Jeff, you had something?
No, I guess just for the public, just a note that, I mean, we've worked with Dave and his crew on Williams Ranch, and I don't think we've had any issues there. So Been a good partner. So
And of course, we've worked on a few things with Adams too. So it's
well, many times.
many times.
Some things.
Some things are more controversial than others, shall we say. Okay. So unless anyone has any further questions, thank you. I think we can go to a motion here. So I'd entertain a motion to recommend the approval of this preliminary plat to the town council. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve a preliminary plat to the town council.
All right. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Are there any future agenda items? I guess the only one, it's not a future agenda item, but I'm curious as to you folks that are on the committee. There's a workshop coming up. When is that?
26th.
Yeah, so there's a joint workshop coming up with the council and the planning and zoning on the 26th.
And that's an open meeting.
Yes.
So the public is invited.
Yep.
Because we will be revising our town ordinances to updating, shall we say. We'll be working on the tree ordinance and what else? The subdivision tree. And
Yeah, so those are the two that we're focused on. The development committee has been working tirelessly over the last couple of months, trying to refine the subdivision ordinance, bring it up to speed as far as state regulations, formatting, all those things. And so now this is kind of the final version, so to speak, of a draft. It's still in draft format, to get input of both governing bodies to see if there's any other things that they'd want to tweak or change. And so it'll address those for sure for the subdivision ordinance.
That's February 26th
In the morning.
at 8:30 a.m. Here.
Yes, correct.
So again, public is invited to that, although it'll be thrilling to sit in on some of this ordinance writing. You are invited.
I can tell you that it's been 2-hour plus meetings to get to it. So
Yeah.
block your calendar.
But I think we should add that all the commentary that we hear here is what we're bringing to that meeting, so that while it might seem like there's not much that we can do here, once everything is filled out, what we've done is taken all the comments that we've heard along the way, and we're building that into this revision. So that's how we can kind of make sure that we keep Copper Canyon the way we want it.
So I think the reason I bring it up is the agenda item would be at our next meeting. We would like to have some discussion from the people who presented it or the consultant or whatever to bring us up to date on kind of what the discussion level is that might affect P&Z going forward. So just as our next agenda item, just kind of an status update. Anything else for future agendas? All right. We are authorized to have an executive session. We have no reason to have an executive session. By the way, there's only like 5 reasons you can have one, and we don't have any of those reasons. And so, is there any further business to come before us tonight?
I'm sorry. Our vice chairman reminded me of an item that we discussed a couple meetings ago that we haven't resolved, and that's the conditional use permits.
Oh, okay.
So we can put that on for discussion at our next meeting.
Next meeting, conditional use permit.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other items of discussion tonight? Hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned at 6:34. Thank you all for coming. Hang around. We're going to have a fun town council meeting here in about 25 minutes, so hang around.
There's no cupcakes.
That's the latest thing in the church. I've been
And there's no pizza.
Yeah, I can't believe that, but
So the last